ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the Movie Commentary Podcast. It's the podcast in which we are watching movies and talking about them. Just an announcement, quick announcement before we get started. The Movie Commentary Podcast is now available on iHeartRadio. For any of you that is your primary podcast platform. It is taken a while. I'm on almost all the platforms now. I'm still trying to get onto Pandora, but apparently that one takes a while. But again, we are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Podcasts. Now we're on iHeartRadio, also on YouTube as well. Now today I got an interesting episode today. I think I say that about a lot of my episodes, but today is kind of I'll set the scene for the inspiration. So I'm recording this. It's a night. It's night. It's currently 9 in the morning. I actually had the idea for this. Actually, not at night. Actually, I said 9 in the morning. But I had the idea for this last night. I kind of wanted to. I was gonna try and do a spontaneous recording of an episode. And I kind of wanted something a little short, and I didn't know of any other short films that I had until I came across a Blu-ray that I had of the Wallace and Gromit short films. So we will be watching only the first two of the short films of Wallace and Gromit. First one titled "A Grand Day Out," released in 1989, and then the next short film of Wallace and Gromit, "The Wrong Trousers," released in 1993. And again, this one will be kind of a shorter episode. Wallace, "A Grand Day Out" is, I believe, only about 19 minutes long, and then "The Wrong Trousers" is only about 30 minutes long. So, and again, I just kind of wanted a bit of a shorter episode. Bit of a busy weekend for me, so something like that. So, I am going to go ahead and start "A Grand Day Out," and then I will start talking about Wallace and Gromit. So they're showing the logo here. They're saying that Wallace and Gromit, it's Aardman Animations presents Wallace and Gromit in "A Grand Day Out." Now, I do know that I have a few European listeners who may know a lot about Wallace and Gromit. I believe they're very popular in England. Of course, they are properties of Aardman Studios, who are based in England. They make a lot very popular characters in England and I think all across the European continent. My American listeners, which I do record this podcast in America, mostly probably reaches mostly Americans. So some of them may not even know who Wallace and Gromit are. So Wallace and just for those of you that don't know, Wallace and Gromit, they're a duo that star in a series of stop motion animated films. The characters themselves. You got the fellow who's named Wallace, who we're reviewing here now. He is the man. He wears kind of these dark brown, kind of like corduroy trousers with a green sweater vest and with a white shirt with a red tie, and he's bald and with no eyebrows even. So, and then Gromit is actually a dog. That is Wallace's dog, and he does not have a mouth. He's very much he emotes without saying anything. Nick, the creator of this, who I will get into in just a second, he created Gromit with just the eyes, and he does a great job of displaying the emotions of Gromit through the eyes. In fact, that's actually, I'd probably say, the funniest part of these Wallace and Gromit films is Gromit's the use of his eyes in order to kind of tell the emotions, because Wallace can be a bit of a. Wallace is so basically the whole one of the big shticks about this of this franchise is that Wallace and Gromit are actually inventors, and Gromit is an inventor. He's kind of an anthropomorphic dog. He doesn't talk, but he kind of walks on. He can walk on two legs. He can read. He reads the newspaper. He's kind of like a human acting like a dog acting like a human. One of the things that their sticks is, they're inventors, and they use their inventions to do like various odd jobs. Like this movie, they don't have any kind of jobs, but as they go along in the series, like there's one movie where they're in one of their short films, one that we're not going to watch, A Close Shave. They're window washers. They go around washing windows for certain people, and then in the next short film, A Matter of Loaf and Death, released I believe in 2008. They are bakers, and they use like these fancy inventions to, bake bread and all that kind of stuff. But Wallace and Gromit. Again, there are four short films of Wallace and Gromit. A Grande Out, which we are watching right now. Wallace is in his basement, and he is drawing out plans for a rocket, which I will get into in a second here. There's The Wrong Trousers, which we will watch in a second. The Close Shave, released I believe in 1995. A Matter of Loaf and Death, released in 2008. And then there's also a feature-length film. I think some people may have seen this. It was released through DreamWorks in the United States. It was Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, which lots of people may have seen. Some people may not have seen, but again, just kind of the history of this duo. So basically, a little bit of what's going on in the movie. Wallace and Gromit, they're on what's called a bank holiday, and they're trying to find a place to go. They're trying to, it's like, hey, where should we travel for this? And another big character trait of Wallace is, he's a big cheese connoisseur. He loves, eating all kinds of cheese, and that's a big recurring gag throughout not a gag, but just a recurring character trait throughout the Wallace and Gromit movies. And one of the things, it's kind of a comedic without directly being comedy. Actually, it's they're trying to say, hey, Gromit, that's it, cheese. We'll go somewhere where there's cheese. And Wallace, they kind of look through these books. They have like all these books strewn around trying to look for a place to go, and then they look out the window. Wallace stays there. Everybody knows the moon's made of cheese. It's kind of that old, moon's made of cheese kind of line. And then from that, Wallace goes downstairs, makes plans for a rocket, and now Gromit is in the process of creating, Wallace and Gromit are in the process of creating said rocket, I meant. So, the idea behind Wallace and Gromit, it kind of started off in 1982. This is about 7 years before this film was actually even released. An animator, a student at the, I believe it was the National, it was a prestigious film school in Britain, and the animator by the name of Nick Park, who kind of had this idea for just this guy and his cat. Originally, Gromit was actually going to be a cat, but as they evolved, as they actually got into making plasticine caricatures, Gromit actually turned into a dog, actually. So Nick Park actually was, and he started this while he was a student at the National Film and Television School in England. He's obviously of English descent. And the character of Wallace is actually kind of, as what Nick Park says, he's actually kind of based off of Nick Park's father. Because, as I said, Wallace is kind of he's an inventor. And, Nick Park always said that one of the things that he noticed about his dad is that his dad was always kind of went out into the garage or to the shed and kind of tinkered. So he's a bit of a tinkerer. So that's kind of, the idea with Wallace. And then, he had Gromit here. And then Gromit started off as a cat and then it became a dog, actually. And and so he started working on this in about 1982, I believe, was when this film started, and he started making it while he was in school, and one of the things about the film was that it was taking a long time. Now, the thing with Wallace and Gromit, throughout all the Wallace and Gromit films, is that they're not. It's not traditional animation. It's actually stop motion animation using plasticine, which is plasticine is kind of just it's like a clay, but I think it's a lot more like user friendly in order to mold it and move the characters around, that kind of thing. So. And you can see even in some of these earlier films, it's the movement of Wallace and Gromit, especially in A Grand Day Out. It looks very rough, kind of with a lot of animation in their early days, especially kind of in the 80s. It starts off the first animation looks a little rough compared to what we know nowadays, but and again, this isn't new. I mean, this wasn't it wasn't like it was breaking any kind of ground per se, because stop motion, claymation animation has been around for, it's been around for a while. Yeah. So again, Nick Park started in 1982 making this film. 3 years later, Nick Park actually got hired onto Aardman Animations, who's an animation film that actually deals heavily in stop motion animation, using plasticine and clay and stop motion animation, that kind of thing. So he started working at Aardman Animations in order to because Aardman, from the story that I heard, Aardman needed an animator. Nick needed to get a job. So Nick started working at Aardman Animations while working part-time on the film to finish it up. And eventually, it took a while. It still took a long time after that to finish it. I mean, it took him till 1989 to finally finish the film up, and it ultimately it actually was a very successful film. It actually was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Animated Short Film in the United States, obviously. So, and apparently, reading this on Wikipedia, apparently Nick Park he actually had to write to a company in England. I think it's called the William Harbut Company. And he requested a whole bunch of plasticine in order to actually mold out the characters and to create this kind of create it. So again, now we're basically talking over that Wallace and Gromit. They have been they finished up their rocket and then they blasted off from their house, and now they're on their way to the moon, essentially. So they also painted their rocket orange, which is a favorite color of mine. Now, kind of some interesting, some more behind the scenes about Wallace and Gromit. So, Wallace is actually voiced by a famous British actor, English actor named Peter Sallis, and Peter Sallis was actually he was very he was a well-renowned actor in England up until when he made this movie. I mean, he had been in a lot of television movies. He'd been in done a lot of theater work. He had been in an episode of Doctor Who called The Ice Warriors. For any of you into that kind of thing, and he basically did the film. He basically did the voice of Wallace as a favor to Nick Park. Nick Park offered him, I think it was like £50 or whatever the currency what is this currency? Yeah, I think it's £50 in England, essentially, in order to do the voice of Wallace. And apparently it actually surprised Nick Park, which I do admit. I mean, it's you gotta remember. I mean, Nick Park was basically a nobody making a film about these characters that nobody knew about. So it was very interesting. Kind of he was able to get a very good actor too, because Peter Sallis is doing the voice of Wallace is actually it's very I'd say probably one of the very great voice acting, actually. I mean, I will admit, Wallace and Gromit are actually, I mean, they're very well renowned in England. I mean, they've actually very popular. I mean, Nick Park has since making this, I mean, he's actually won a whole bunch of Oscars for the films that he's made, and he's actually met the Queen of England. So Wallace and Gromit, they're very popular in England, and of course, when they made this, they had no idea that it'd even get anywhere that close. So now it's really interesting. We're on the moon with Wallace and Gromit, and they are cutting up parts of the moon, and they're tasting it, because apparently the moon actually does give edible slices of cheese in order to to eat. And now Wallace is coming up to, and I don't really know what this is. I mean, if anybody who listens to this in England can tell me what this contraption in a Grand Day Out is, because it looks like an oven. It looks like an oven, but it also looks like maybe like a microwave or some kind of dishwasher. I have no idea what this thing is. Maybe it's like a what is this? Does it have it on here? Apparently there's a robot. Yeah, no, they just said it's a robot and nothing else. But it looks, I don't know what this robot is. It looks very like kitchen appliance-y like. But it's kind of very funny because Wallace actually put like a coin in there to like activate it, and now the robot's starting up now, and apparently the robot's like, it looks like he's like some kind of a like police, like not maybe like police, but like it looks like he's like looking at because like he's seeing that Wallace and Gromit are like kind of cutting up the pieces of the moon and like eating them and like putting them on like crackers and eating it. So and also now he will turn a little violent here. He's going to start like beating up on Wallace. So now this is actually kind of funny because the robot here is like he picked up one of Wallace's ski magazines, and he's kind of envisioning himself like skiing on the mountains in I don't know where he would be skiing here, but I kind of find the creativity of Nick Park kind of funny here, because he's basically taking like this robot here, basically saying, what if this robot wanted to ski? And it's like, he wants to travel to Earth. And of course, also, the robot doesn't have any, he doesn't have a voice too. He basically just has like these like mechanical arms that kind of like reaches out from his, body. So basically, and he doesn't even have any eyes like what Gromit does. So basically, he has to act using his arms, essentially. And kind of like some of the movements that he, uses, when he's like moving. So, and this is also kind of funny. He's just like a parking ticket for the rocket ship. So. And there's nothing. Don't even read anything in the rocket. Nothing. Can't even read what's on the note there. So. So now he looks at Wallace eating a piece of the moon, and now he's getting kind of all ticked off. So basically, he's gonna pull out basically a club from his little, because like he has like this drawer that he uses like in the front of him. He's gonna pull out like this club, and he's basically gonna go up to Wallace and bang him on the back of the head. So. Also notice that we're on the moon, and neither Wallace nor Gromit have any protective suits on, as the robot runs out of power right as he is about to hit Wallace in the head. And I love how Wallace is kind of just oblivious to it, and he just kind of stands up and hits himself on the head. So. He puts in another coin, Wallace. That's kind of one of the things about Wallace. Like he's very, I wouldn't say call him dumb, but he's very much like a kind of a happy-go-lucky kind of airhead. You know, he's very like oblivious to the world around him, and he's very like, you know, he looks like he gets like focused on one thing, but it causes him to like lose like sight of what's going on around, and it's not that he's dumb, because I mean, yeah, he has to be for all the inventions that he makes, he has to be very smart in order to actually make them and actually do that, because he actually comes up with some creative ideas. Now the robot is they see him, and now the robot is going back to the ship. Now, it looks like he's like trying to like capture them and like, trying to be like do evil things and blah, blah, blah. And basically, I'm pretty sure what the movie's saying here is that he basically just wants to hitch a ride back to Earth. But, Wallace and Gromit are both really, they're like, no, we can't do that, blah, blah, blah. So now he's starting to cut up pieces of the ship, and he's trying to hitch himself a ride in there. But going back to Wallace and Gromit, actually, there's a Wallace and Gromit actually they also have a couple television, like they're not purely TV shows, because they've been released on on DVDs as well, but they do these television shows that are all about like inventions and like and there's a Wallace and Gromit cracking contraptions series that's basically all about them. Like, it's basically showcasing all the different inventions that Wallace and Gromit make, actually. And while Wallace does a great job of inventing some of these inventions, some of the shortfalls of them actually cause them to not end up very well. Like he makes like a robot that's supposed to make breakfast that malfunctions and blows up. He creates like this dinner making apparatus that ultimately like traps them like in their seats, which I never understood that. And but yeah, no, it's kind of a part of their it's just kind of a part of their story, because they have like all these like really weird inventions that they make, and it's just kind of interesting. Kind of seeing the lore of Wallace and Gromit. So now the robot's left back on the moon, and he's sad. Which he also blows his nose, which he doesn't have a nose, which is kind of funny. But then he also kind of ripped off some pieces of the ship, and he actually knows that he realizes that he can actually mold them into like skis, because basically he wanted to hitch a ride back to Earth because he wanted to ski, which is interesting. And now he's skiing on the moon, which is fun. So now the robot gets to ski on the moon, and he's all happy and whatnot, so that's fun. So again, this is the first Wallace and Gromit short. Probably the shortest, simplest of the Wallace and Gromit shorts. I mean, again, it's the first one. Again, from what I said, it took Nick Park 7 years to create. It was very long and hard work. Again, making all those scenes of shooting all those scenes of stop motion, and Because again, it's really. I mean, it's you have to. It's again stop motion. I mean, it's you basically going frame by frame in the animation by hand. With the plasticine figures. So that could be difficult. So as I said, a Wallace and Gromit a Grand Day Out was actually nominated for the 1990 Academy Award for Best Short Film, but it actually lost. It was kind of funny because Nick Park actually created another short film during this year called Creature Comforts, which is actually Creature Comforts is another famous Aardman creation. It's basically that one was essentially Nick Park. He created a he created a basically went around to like people's houses and he essentially recorded them talking. And then he animated like different like animals like in their like zoo pens like talking about like what they're talking about it. And actually that was actually what won the animated short film for 1990, the Academy Award for that. So A Grand Day Out is finished, and we are now going to roll into. We're now going to roll into the wrong trousers as soon as the menu loads here. All right. Oh, come on. So The Wrong Trousers, again, another Aardman creation. The Wrong Trousers was created released, I believe, in 1993, about 4 years after, A Grand Day Out was released. And I remember looking up some of the inspiration for The Wrong Trousers from what Nick Park was saying in interviews, and I think he didn't come up with anything clear. Basically, it started off with like he had this idea for like these mechanical trousers that would like malfunction or be used like against Wallace and Gromit, and then I do believe one of the Aardman, I believe it was actually Peter Lord, who was actually one of the co-founders of Aardman, who brought Nick Park onto Aardman Animations. He actually, I think after that, he basically stated, well, why don't we make it like some kind of like Hitchcockian like thriller or something like that. So, The Wrong Trousers is actually, in some kind of ways, it's very much a very historic stop motion animation film. More so for what happens at the end of the movie, but and we'll get to that when it goes. So anyway, Wallace and Gromit, we're starting off, starting to see some of the inventions that they use actually. So Wallace, he has like one of these inventions that where he actually kind of slides out of his bed into his trousers. And it kind of shows like how like he gets like dressed. Basically, he has like all these like inventions that come around and like put like the different parts of like his shirt on and puts like different parts of puts his vest on. He has like this like he has like a ramp on his like bed where he can like slide down into like the living room. No, not the living room, the dining room, where he can like make breakfast. Which they actually use in all the next Wallace and Gromit movies. So this is the first one where you really get to see where the lore of Wallace and Gromit really get to you really build upon it, because in the first movie you didn't really get to know a lot about the characters. I mean, you kind of learned that Wallace was he liked cheese and he's you didn't know a whole lot about it, but a lot about them, but you kind of you got a little bit of the sense, but now like I mean, you get to see like kind of more like their daily lives, and like you get to learn more about their you see more of their house and. Oh my gosh! So the one of the contexts for this is one of the contexts here is Wallace. It's actually it's actually Gromit's birthday for this to start the day off, and also Wallace. He actually one of his nicknames that he gives to Gromit, even as the movies go along. Happy birthday, Chuck! So. And it's kind of funny. He gives Gromit a dog collar, which it kind of goes. One of the things that Nick Park he kind of find it funny about Wallace is that he kind of not undervalued like Gromit's like intelligence, but it's just kind of he was like oblivious to it, and he's just again he was kind of like too far into like his own like lane. Like Nick Park said that like Nick Park even says like yeah, Wallace is kind of dumb, but I don't think he's dumb. I think he's just kind of like oblivious in like a comedic way, kind of. So basically, this is the introduction of the trousers. So basically, what Wallace is giving Gromit for his birthday is he gave him a dog collar, and then he gave him these. They call them these techno trousers, and basically what he's given. Basically, what the techno trousers are going to do is they're basically going to take Gromit on walks, essentially. So, which Gromit doesn't really like because he's getting dragged out of the room. So, and then Gromit, he kind of leaves the techno trousers with another dog, and now he's playing on the slide at this park. So. Now, the interesting thing about the wrong trousers compared to A Grand Day Out is this is actually the first it's actually kind of the first it's like the first look of the modern versions of Wallace and Gromit. They actually went through a change between they went through a big change actually between A Grand Day Out and then this movie, because originally in A Grand Day Out their designs were a little differently. Like Gromit actually looked more like I want to say like a more traditional dog, but like he had kind of like a longer snout, and like his nose kind of stuck out a little bit more. And then Wallace didn't have like the massive cheeks that he does in this movie. They actually, again, one of the things about Wallace is that Wallace loves cheese, and the actor who plays Wallace, Peter Sallis, apparently Nick Park really liked the way that he said cheese, so he actually gave like Wallace like these extended cheeks to kind of like the cheese kind of sound. So yeah. So in the story, so basically in the context of the story, what's going on in the story, Wallace is basically so basically what's been established in the story is that Wallace and Gromit are both kind of they're kind of struggling for they're kind of struggling for like for movies, not for movie, for money, actually struggling for money. And one of the things that they decided to do is they're actually renting their rooms out, and they actually have taken in a penguin. Actually, they've taken a penguin in, who we have actually learned is the name of Feathers McGraw, who we will learn is not a very good very, very bit of a sinister vibe behind him, because you kind of look. And again, Feathers, he has a beak and some eyes, but and the eyes aren't as he's kind of like Gromit, how he doesn't really talk a whole lot. Or he doesn't talk at all, and his eyes are not as they don't emote as much as Gromit does. And basically, as we'll find out, Feathers McGraw is kind of just using them in order to basically using them in order to like steal like this precious diamond, and and he actually uses the trousers to do that. So so Gromit's kind of, and Feathers is being kind of he's playing his music kind of loud, so Gromit's getting a little upset about it. He also kicked Gromit out of his room, actually. Feathers went in so they were renting a room out, and Feathers McGraw, who's this penguin, he went into Gromit's room, and he basically wanted to stay there. And one of the things about Wallace is that he's actually kind of a bit of a guy that's too nice, so he doesn't really have the heart to tell Feathers, like, oh yeah, you can't stay in this room because this is my dog's room, so. Now, one of the things about this movie that kind of contrived, actually, is though it shows that Gromit's getting really upset about Feathers kind of taking over his room, and now it's also showing Feathers kind of putting shoes on Wallace, that kind of thing. So again, he's kind of buttering up to Wallace, who he knows is kind of an unsuspecting chap. But then it's showing like Gromit starting to like cry, and it's showing him like he's tired. He didn't get a whole lot of sleep, so it's, I don't know. It just seems a little bit contrived, to be quite honest with you, because Gromit feels a little left out, so he's kind of, again, get a bit, maybe a bit like jealous of both Wallace and Gromit, the relationship they're having. So. Which, again, a little contrived, but, it is what it is. And I also will admit, Gromit has probably the coolest doghouse that I've ever seen, ever. Like, he has, like wallpaper in there. He's got, like, shelves and pictures on the wall. So it's really awesome doghouse. Which, Gromit, again, is a dog, so who doesn't talk? But again, so we're only, 11 minutes into this movie, and so Gromit's already gotten to the point where he feels like he's been replaced by Feathers McGraw, and basically Gromit is, leaving, essentially. And I believe this is all about part of Feathers' plan. He wanted to get Gromit kind of out of the picture. And so that Feathers could basically just kind of do whatever he wanted to. Which, again, it seems just a little bit like too contrived. I feel like Gromit would have. I don't think he would have, because basically it's shown that he feels like Feathers has basically replaced him as the pet, so he's basically just packing his stuff up and running away, kind of. Which I'm not the biggest fan of, but it is what it is. Just seems not really well set up, at least from my perspective. So now Gromit is resorted to sleeping in a trash can. And now Wallace is waking up, and so basically he has to Wallace actually, so basically his little bed slide, he actually has to press a button to sound an alarm to Gromit, and Gromit will actually pull a lever, and it actually kind of flips him up and slides him down the bed. But now Feathers has replaced the Wallace's regular trousers with the techno trousers. So Feathers has actually put Wallace into the he has put them into the into the techno trousers. So Wallace is basically stuck in the techno trousers, kind of just walking around. So, and now this is really funny. So Gromit is looking at like an ad board, and there's a wanted there's a wanted ad for a chicken, actually, and as we see, it's basically the chicken is essentially Feathers McGraw with a red rubber hat, like glove on his head. And one of the things that they don't know is that they don't recognize feathers like that. So but now Gromit's starting to get a little bit suspicious of feathers because he's seeing Wallace kind of running around in the trousers, kind of trapped in there. And now he's seeing feathers with the controls, so he's getting a little suspicious. And now Wallace is back to sleep, so now Feathers McGraw, what are we going to do with him? Blah, blah, blah. I also have noticed that there have been lots of mentions of sheep in these movies now. One of the interesting things about sheep is actually there's been like sheep in newspapers that they've been reading, that the various characters have been reading. And one of the things, and I'm not going to watch this movie, but the next movie called A Close Shave, it actually deals with sheep. Actually, basically, it deals with like this robotic dog stealing all these sheep and basically putting them into this like invention that kind of shears all their wool off to kind of create like basically like yarn, balls of yarn. And creates like sweaters and whatnot. But one of the characters of sheep from that movie is a character called Shaun the Sheep, who's actually gotten his own franchise. He got his own television series, and then he's got his own essentially he also has gotten his own couple movies. Again, Shaun the Sheep. And I just noticed this in this movie and not in the last movie. Like Wallace and Gromit were reading like newspapers that there were like different sheeps in the there were like different like mentions of sheep in the newspaper. So again, it was a little bit of a nod there because again, Shaun the Sheep is also created by Nick Park, and he's created the movie, directed the movies as well. So it's a bit of a slight nod that he had some ideas for doing something with sheep. Again, as far back as doing Wallace and Gromit. How did Feathers not see him? So Gromit is hiding in a box, and he actually cut out some eyes. He cut out some eyes like in the box in order to spy on Feathers, and I don't know how Feathers was able to. Feathers actually saw that, but I guess he did. So it actually kind of showed like Feathers looking at it and then kind of just, not noticing anything about it. So now it looks like we know what Feathers is up to. He's actually going to. There's a famous diamond at the museum that he is going to steal. So, and one of the things that he's using is he's going to use the Wallace in the techno trousers in order to steal them. So, and now we see Feathers with the glove on his head. Again, it's only a 4-fingered rubber glove because again, you only can in animation. There's always the tradition of having four fingers instead of 5. Which I actually just noticed, Gromit only has 4 fingers as well, and I think Wallace only has a couple 4 fingers as well. So. No, actually, Wallace has 5 fingers. I just saw that. No, well, does he? I didn't get a good look at that. It's always kind of an interesting, an interesting story, because there's always a tradition that animated characters have only 4 fingers, and I think it's always because that it's easier to draw the 4 fingers instead of the 5. So. And Gromit just got thrown through the Wallace's little bed shoe, so he just got dressed in Wallace's clothes, and he just got just slapped in the face with a bunch of jam, like grape jam, looks like. So now Feathers is going to, using the techno trousers to fulfill his little diamond heist, while Wallace is actually sleeping in the techno trousers. Now, one of the things I think that was actually the impetus behind the techno trousers, I think that Nick Park, he wanted something that would allow them to walk on the walls. I mean, I wasn't able to find a whole lot on the inspiration behind this. Basically, the story of how it turned into kind of a Hitchcockian thriller, and I will admit, though, the Feathers McGraw is he doesn't say anything, and again, his eyes don't really tell you a whole lot, but his eyes, there's not a whole lot, the lack of emotion in his eyes don't give you a whole lot to go, kind of make him a little bit of a scarier character, so. Oh my gosh, so they're walking on the air ducts, and I can't believe that nobody would have heard this, because those air ducts are making such a loud noise. It's actually something that they tested in Mythbusters. They were actually testing different spy apparatuses of moving through air ducts in order to basically sneak around and that kind of thing. And one of the things that they noticed in that Mythbusters episode was that they essentially, one of the contraptions that they were using was very loud, because in using the air ducts, it was air, it was suction, and how the air duct metal is very it's very flexible, so you can if you do an air suction on it, you pull on the metal, you release it, the metal goes back and it releases a big bang. It's dun, so it was kind of funny. So. And again, this museum, so they're basically in a museum, oh man, looks like part of the plot is starting to, they're trying to, there's these red wires that they're trying to, maneuver across. Yeah, the museum security is not very good, actually. So now the museum scenes here, I do believe they're actually filmed by a different animator than Nick Park. I do believe Nick Park did the majority of the other animation of Wallace and Gromit in the movie, but the museum scene in which they're actually stealing the diamond is actually, I think, directed by was actually created by an animator named Steve Box, actually. And so again, it just kind of shows it's just Wallace walking on the roof. He's stealing the diamond with this little helmet that he has, and I can't believe that basically Feathers is created a claw out of a claw machine out of this helmet, which I can't believe is actually actually is holding the diamond very well, so. Oh, they've tripped the burglar alarm. They got to get out of there. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So now the alarm, basically the alarm has gone off, and Feathers is trying to get Wallace out of the museum because they've tripped the alarm. And he's and Wallace is just so kind of just clueless about what's going on. I love this little animated scene here. It's like him like walking on the walls. I'm pretty sure this actually would have been like a camera trick actually, because they actually showed like there was kind of like an up high angle of Wallace walking down the side of the museums. So I'm pretty sure they kind of like bit of a different view of the camera on that. So now I love how they were very like, it's that kind of old cliche like in like movies where like the disguise of the villain is so like just like stupidly simple. However, like however also the characters themselves are also so stupid that they can't even understand it. Now this is really funny right here. Feathers McGraw, Gromit has kind of cornered him, and Gromit had like a rolling pin that he was gonna like beat Feathers on the head over, but Feathers like literally pulled out a revolver and flashed it to Gromit, which I will admit, again, any kind of animation with guns I don't think can be made nowadays. So now they're trying to chase after Feathers McGraw to try and get the diamond back. And now they are hopping onto a mini train. Now, and Feathers still has the gun, and he is shooting after Gromit. Now, so basically the ending of this movie here is basically this giant mini train chase scene, which is a lot of people view as probably one of the most famous like action scenes in a movie ever. Actually, I mean, there's actually been like articles that I've read that this is actually like one of the best chase scenes ever in any movie ever. So, and because basically the idea is Wallace and Gromit basically in their house they have like a mini train set that kind of rolls around that they have, and now Feathers has gotten onto the train, and they're basically just kind of chasing around the house, basically. So, now one of the interesting things that I read, and I read this on IMDb or IMBD or whatever it is. Apparently, this train chase scene was actually part of the inspiration for the final truck chase scene at the end of Toy Story. Because according to the animators, it was a inspiration to them. So, but I do admit it's a very exhilarating chase scene. I mean, now this is really interesting here. Like Gromit, the track that Gromit's on actually runs out of tracks, but there just so happens to be like a box of like spare train tracks right by him. So he's basically like, as the train is rolling, he's actually laying down the tracks to make sure that the train doesn't go off the tracks. And he's trying to like get by Feathers in order to, capture him. Now this train scene was, I do believe, a bit of a. It was. They didn't even know if it could have been done at Aardman because I mean it's very like high speed, like the backgrounds are like whizzing by at a very high rate of speed, and they got to like animate have to animate the characters in a bit of like in real time. So. When they even started off with the train chase scene, I mean, they didn't even know if it was possible. So, of course, they knew it was going to be really difficult to make. So, and they made it. And I mean, a lot of people view that as again very influential, train chase sequence. So, Feathers has now been captured. He's put in the zoo, which they are kind of brandishing as a bit of a prison for animals, which some might see that as that, but it's a bit of a on the nose there. So now, also at the end of the movie, they're showing that Wallace and Gromit have. Also, I also just noticed. Speaking of sheep, there's also a picture of a sheep in Wallace and Gromit's house. So, and also we've noticed that they have thrown away the techno trousers, which will kind of start back up here and walk themselves away. So the wrong trousers actually went on to win the 1994 Academy Award for Best Animated Short Film. And it got Nick Park his second Oscar nod because he won his first Oscar in 1990 with the winning of Creature Comforts. And then 2 years later, in 1995, Nick Park won they released a cloche, which we talked about, and Nick Park won the Oscar for that Best Animated Short Film as well. So basically with Wallace and Gromit, I mean they set him up as, and basically the first three films, I mean it was Oscar nominated, and two Academy Award winning shorts. So I mean very famous start to this duo, because I mean they won they had a great streak of Oscar nods and Oscar wins, and it got Nick Park a lot of notoriety too, because again it's winning an Oscar will do that to you. So, and there wasn't a whole lot of Wallace and Gromit after this. Basically after this, I mean I think they did their little cracking contraptions like children's film, like TV films, and then I believe it was in 2004 was when I believe the date was 2004 was when they released Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, which was created by Aardman Animation and distributed by DreamWorks. In fact, it was actually Aardman and DreamWorks had a little bit of a partnership together, and they released Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, but also the movie Flushed Away was an Aardman movie as well. But even before that, no, actually, I just remembered. But in between making a Close Shave, which would be the next film, and then making The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, Nick Park and I believe Phil Lord, who is the co-founder of Aardman, who actually brought Nick Park onto Aardman. They actually co-directed the famous movie Chicken Run, which was released by DreamWorks and created by Aardman. And then after that kind of gave him the foothold in the United States, because again, Chicken Run had a great cast. I mean, it actually had a very famous actor in America, Mel Gibson playing a lead part. So and then about 4 years, that was released in 2000, and then about 4 years later they released The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, and then I believe after that they released Flushed Away, and then after that Aardman and DreamWorks kind of stopped doing business together. I don't know exactly why. I think it was Flushed Away wasn't as big a success as they maybe wanted it to be, but that's kind of unfortunate, because I thought it was a solid movie. I haven't seen it in a while, but then after that, Nick Park released another Wallace and Gromit short, A Matter of Loaf and Death, which is actually Wallace and Gromit. In that movie, they're basically bakers, and Wallace meets an old girl from a bakery commercial, Paella the Bakelite girl, who was in these old bakers commercials, on a hot air balloon, and it actually finds out that Paella is actually a murderer who actually murders she gets all cozy, and she basically gets in the beds with these different bakers and seduces them and ultimately kills them. So you even see Wallace actually turns into he kind of falls head over heels for her. Now, the interesting thing about A Matter of Loaf and Death is that it showcases the first instance of a Gromit love interest, because Wallace in these first two movies, there's really no other characters. It's just Wallace and Gromit, and then basically the villain. And then in the next movie, you get a more character. You get in A Close Shave, you get a character named Wendelin, who Wallace takes a bit of a fancy towards, but nothing really happens from that. In The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, there's a Lady Toddington who this character with these a Cheeto Puff style hair, and she, her and Wallace, they're a little bit of a thing, but it's nothing to, nothing, to write home about. And then in this next movie, Wallace actually, they get, Wallace and her get engaged, and then he finds out that she's trying to kill him, and then, ultimately, he breaks it off. But in a matter of life and death, Gromit actually kind of becomes attached to this Paella's little dog, who's like this. I don't know exactly what kind of dog. She's like a poodle or something like that. And it's kind of funny because you never thought of Gromit actually having a love interest, but it was kind of a nice introduction by Nick Park. So, but then after that, Wallace and Gromit. The last thing that's really been officially released by them is actually they released it. There was a television series that they made. It was the Wallace and Gromit and the Amazing World of Invention, I believe in 2010. For the BBC, and they made a couple small internet videos since that. But other than that, they've been kind of quiet lately. They haven't. Again, 2008 was when they released The Matter of Loaf and Death, so that's been over 10 years since the last short film was released. But again, one of the things that's also kind of sad is that Peter Sallis, who was the voice of Wallace, is actually since passed away. So which they have a new voice actor who he basically sounds just like him. It's not a big difference at all. But again, kind of a bit of a sad notice on them. So, but again, he's given a great deal of service to the role. So it's been awesome. So, and that's really where I'll leave it. Again, thank you all for listening to the podcast. We are available wherever you can get your podcasts at. We're Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, basically all the places. Still waiting on Pandora, which Pandora takes a while to get their podcasts submitted. Thank you all for listening. I'm going to appreciate all of y'all that take the time to listen. Stay good out there, and I will see you on the flip side.